Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this additional meeting of the Standards Committee of Rother District Council. Present today, we have Councillors Killeen, we have Councillor Legg, who's Chairman of Rother and is here in an ex officio capacity, and we have Councillor Polly Gray. Do we have apologies for absence?
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Councillors Biggs and Chowdhury, independent persons Bob Brown and Rose Durbin, and the monitoring officer. And we're also joined online by the Deputy Monitoring Officer Mark Watkins and Parish Councillor David Penfold.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Additional agenda items?
There are none.
Okay, and disclosure of interest and dispensations. Councillor Bayliss.
Yes, I'm supposed to be a substitute member of this meeting, substituting for Councillor Chowdhury, but in relation to advice I've received, I am not going to take part in the meeting today, other than to make a personal statement as a recipient of one of the apologies. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Now, we're here, there is only one item on the agenda, and that's to hear a report on the Code of Conduct complaint raised by Councillor Oliver against Councillor Connor Winter, and to hear of its resolution. Now, just for the public, what I'd like to explain here is this is not a standards hearing. This is, in fact, local resolution. Both parties in this matter have decided that it would be advantageous and better for the council to go for local resolution. That does not in any way mean that the charges that were brought against Councillor Winter were not sufficient to warrant a public hearing. They indeed, I believe, would be, and I've talked with our monitoring officer, Phil Baker, and he is of the same opinion. However, local resolution is slightly different in that we're not about to hear detailed evidence of the problems, but we're about to hear about the local resolution procedure, and I believe our Deputy Monitoring Officer, Mark Watkins, is going to introduce that, if you would please, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin, can I just establish and verify that members can both hear my voice and see me?
We can indeed, thank you.
I'm grateful. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that introduction. Members, this report concerns, before you today, concerns complaint reference Charlie 2502, a complaint made by Councillor Doug Oliver against Councillor Connor Winter. The complaint itself arose from comments made at and following the council meeting of 14th July last, including subsequent public comments concerning the council's decision-making process and the recording of the relevant decision. Now, as the chair has indicated earlier, I must be clear with members at the outset about the nature of the item before committee this afternoon. As the chair has stated, this is not a hearing panel, and the committee is not therefore being asked to determine whether Councillor Winter breached the code, nor is the committee being asked today to impose any sanction. As the chair has also indicated, the complaint has already been independently investigated, and that investigation concluded that there was evidence that the subject member's conduct, I should say, breached paragraphs 1.1, failure to respect other members, paragraph 1.2, failure to respect other officers, and paragraph 5.1, bringing his office into disrepute. Now, under the council's published arrangements, where an investigation concludes that there is evidence of a breach, which is the case here, the monitoring officer must, after consultation with the independent person, either seek local resolution or, in the absence or failure to do that, refer the matter to a hearing panel. The Arrangements also provide that local resolution itself may include an apology, training, and or any other remedial action or any combination of the above, all of which, of course, is intended to resolve the particular complaint and also to support high standards of conduct in the future. In this particular case, Mr. Chairman, I consulted with the independent person during that process, and I also took account of the complainant's representations, including his view that because the conduct complained of itself was public, then the resolution itself also needed to include a public-facing apology. Now, following those consultations and discussions with the subject member, and as you've alluded to, Mr. Chairman, a local resolution was reached, and that resolution comprises the following aspects. Firstly, individual written apologies to the complainant and officers and members directly affected. Secondly, refresher training on the code, member and officer relations, and the use of social media. Thirdly, an undertaking concerning future conduct and the manner in which any procedural concerns that the subject member may have in the future is raised. Fourthly, an agreed personal public-facing statement from Councillor Winter himself, which has been included in the committee papers before you today. And finally, Councillor Winter has also confirmed that he will not contradict, qualify, or in any way undermine the agreed public-facing statement itself. Now, the subject member has told me that he is unable to attend this meeting today due to a prior engagement. His attendance, of course, is not required because this is not a hearing. However, the statement, or his agreed personal statement, so that is expressly placed before the committee and therefore into the public record. With your indulgence and consent, Mr. Chairman, I now intend to read that statement verbatim.
I was sincerely hoping you would. Thank you.
Thank you. And the statement reads as follows. I have agreed a local resolution of the standards complaint concerning comments I made at and following the council meeting of 14th July 2025. An independent investigation found that my conduct breached paragraphs 1.1, 1.2 and 5.1 of Rother District Council's Members' Code of Conduct. I acknowledge that my comments caused concern and had the potential to undermine confidence in officers, members and the Council's decision-making process. I apologise to those affected. I will raise any future procedural concerns through appropriate Council channels and will undertake refresher training on the Code of Conduct, member-officer relations and use of social media. I also confirm that I will not contradict, qualify or undermine this agreed public-facing statement. Signed, Conor Winter, Member for Bexhill St Mark's. Mr. Chairman, that is the agreed public-facing statement from the subject member himself. The reason that this matter is being reported before your committee rather than to full council is that the council's arrangements expressly provide that a standards complaint resolved locally is to be reported before your committee and not full council. And I hope that that's something of a statement of the obvious. A personal apology before full council, that could have been negotiated as part of a resolution, but it's not required by the arrangements and in any event was not the resolution that was ultimately agreed upon. And any requirement that now happen would introduce obviously a materially different term after the conclusion of the local resolution process, and I think in my judgment would probably only serve to undermine that, dropping us almost immediately onto the track of a hearing panel in order to determine the allegations made against the member concerned. As far as the public accountability element is concerned, instead, this, I think, is achieved through the publication of the report and Councillor Winter's statement, and also by expressly placing that statement before your committee, Mr. Chairman, in public. The committee is therefore being asked to note the outcome of complaint Charlie 2502 and also the monitoring officer's decision, which has occurred following consultation with the independent person and the complainant to resolve this matter by local resolutions on the terms before you set out in the report. Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions about the process followed in this case and the terms of the local resolution itself. I would respectfully remind committee, though, that this is not a rehearing of the complaint and it would therefore not be appropriate, I would suggest, for the committee to reconsider any of the evidence, make any findings or seek to impose a different sanction through this item in any way. Mr. Chairman, I'm grateful.
Thank you for that. As a matter of clarification, and before I ask for councillors' comments, you referred in your report to breaches of paragraphs 1.1, 1.2 and 5.1 of the Members' Code of Conduct. Now, I think for clarification, I'd like to read those out. I shall just read the headlines of each. 1.1, as a councillor, I treat other councillors and members of the public with respect. 1.2, I treat local authority employees and representatives of partner organisations and those volunteering for the local authority with respect and respect the role they play. Those are pretty general, but if we look on to section 5, this is a little more meaty, as it were. As a councillor, I do not bring my role or the local authority into disrepute. And you may remember in the previous report you just heard that that was one of the things that had been found against Councillor Winter. So let me just read. It says, as a councillor, you are trusted to make decisions on behalf of your community, and your actions and behaviour are subject to greater scrutiny than that of ordinary members of the public. You should be aware that your actions might have an adverse impact on you, on other councillors, and or your local authority, and may lower the public's confidence in your local authority's ability to discharge its functions. For example, behaviour that is considered dishonest and or deceitful, and in some cases, contrary to fact, can bring your local authority into disrepute. You are able to hold the local authority and fellow councillors to account and are able constructively to challenge and express concern about decisions and processes undertaken by the council, whilst continuing to adhere to other aspects of this code of conduct. And that is section 5, and as I say again, the complaint that was investigated found that breaches, that Councillor Winter had breached paragraphs 1.1, 1.2, and the paragraph I have just read, which is 5.1. So this is a serious matter. And I think I should also say, again, I hope you'll bear with me before I invite councillors to comment, it's becoming increasingly obvious that our standards procedures and the way they're phrased has not yet come to terms with the impact of social media. And I think this is being noticed throughout local government and national government. The normal rules of slander or libel, which were well defined and used to essentially keep comments within the bounds of what most people would have considered reasonable criticism, those do not apply. And the standards have not really kept pace with that. But we do the best we can. So without further ado, I believe I have councillors in the room who would also like to comment on this report. Councillor Killeen.
My question is just, we acknowledge that there have been breaches of the Members' Code of Conduct, 3 of them in fact. And one of the resolutions is that refresher training takes place. I think I would just like to understand, how can we confirm that that refresher training has taken place?
Thank you for that. I'm sure our Deputy Monitoring Officer will reply.
Yes, thank you. I have asked colleagues in Democratic Services to make those arrangements, and as Deputy Monitoring Officer, I will be monitoring that. I should be absolutely clear that the nature and extent of the local resolution brokered and agreed upon and signed up to by the subject member himself is multifactorial in that, as I said in my introductory remarks when presenting the report, there are at least 5 aspects. If any aspect of that is not adhered to, then the matter comes before hearings panel on the basis that informal resolution did not work. So I hope that assists you with that question. So in plain English, it's not over until it's over. So I have to be, or the monitoring officer has to be satisfied through me that the subject member has complied with each and every aspect of the informal resolution which he himself has agreed to sign up to.
Thank you for that. Would anybody else like to make a comment? Councillor Tempe.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. I'd like to thank Councillor Oliver for bringing this complaint before the Standards Committee, because it outlines for all of us as councillors just how important it is to be respectful of our colleagues. And I am grateful that our colleague in this particular instance has recognised the issue and will be doing something about it. It really does behold us to look at our behaviour, especially when it's being filmed and live streamed, because we have a responsibility not only to ourselves to be decent people, but to the council that we represent. So once again, thank you, Councillor Oliver, and I'm sorry that our colleague isn't here, because I'd like to shake his hand and say well done for admitting the issues, and can we all just move on? But thanks again.
Thank you, Councillor Tempe. Councillor Bayliss.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair, for inviting me to speak. And as I say, I reiterate that I received one of the personal apologies connected with this local resolution. So I'd like to start a little bit along the lines of Councillor Timpe by thanking Councillor Winter for making the apology and admitting, the findings of the report and agreeing to a local resolution of this matter. So I'd like to place that on record, my thanks to him. I also want a little bit on the same lines as Councillor Timpe to stress the importance of code of conduct and standards in public life. It protects the integrity of local councillors and officers. It provides us with clear guidance on how we should operate and behave, and ultimately it protects democracy, because I'm sure a lot of people will have had mentioned, a lot of councillors here present, that other people are quite put off sometimes from standing to be local councillors and local representatives because of the abuse they suffer. And so that I think that's really important to stress that fact. As I say, I'm very grateful to Councillor Winter for making the apology. As I say, I have received and am grateful for the personal email and letter that he has sent to me apologising for the distress caused. So thank you again.
Thank you. I think I also ought to say that it was Councillor Oliver who decided that this matter would be decided by local resolution. Now, I don't know whether he would wish to expand on that, but however, I believe that this way causes the least damage. There is no point in raking over the ashes of something that happened a while ago. Would Councillor Oliver care to comment?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Part of my decision to deal with this on this local resolution was this matter has been going on for quite a long time, virtually 12 months. And I don't feel that's fair on members, officers, and I think it ultimately needed to be, we move on. I think we've gained what we wanted to gain out of it, that Councillor Winter has acknowledged his, the issues that were brought out into the report. It was very, very well investigated by an external investigator who dealt with that very early on. It's just unfortunate that for various administrative reasons we have not been able to deal with it until now. But I think we do move on. The reputation of the council, its officers and its members is paramount. And we really don't need to have issues like this hanging around for too long. So I'm very pleased that we've got to this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. I would also like to comment that Councillor Winter, as well as being a member of Rother District Council, is a member of Bexhill-on-Sea Town Council, as am I. And I rather hope that we can, as a result of this procedure, look forward to more constructive behaviour in the future. I have no reason to believe that that won't be the case. And Councillor Winter is an active councillor. He does actually get up and do things. Whether the motivation is always what we would wish it to be, I don't know. But this has been a local resolution. I believe all parties to this matter are satisfied with the resolution. Does anyone else wish to comment? Our Deputy Monitoring Officer, are you satisfied with the way in which we have presented and dealt with your report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am. Thank you. I'm most grateful. There is an officer recommendation within the report to note the fact that local resolution has occurred here. In my view, it's optional whether or not you want to take a vote on that. Most standards committees do want to take a vote and formally acknowledge that local resolution has occurred, and that could be important in the unlikely event that the matter has to come back before this committee or a subset of the committee in the form of a hearings panel if local resolution is not seen through to the end on the basis that there are multiple aspects to it, sir. So I'm entirely in your hands as to whether or not you want a formal vote or whether you just want a quick round table to see if all members are happy to note the officer recommendation within the report before you today.
Thank you for that gentle reminder that I have not actually invited the council, the committee to accept the report. I shall read the officer's recommendations. It be resolved that the Standard Committee notes the outcome of complaint 25/02 and the monitoring officer's decision following consultation with the independent person and the complaint to resolve the matter by local resolution on the terms set out in this report. The report is for noting. Do I have a proposer for the acceptance of that report? Thank you, Councillor Colleen, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Gray, and a show of hands, please. And that report is now accepted. Thank you. I think that concludes our business, unless I'm being... there is a hand up online.
Oh, no, just the time of the meeting ending.
Oh, yes. Yes, and the meeting is ended at 14:25. Thank you all for attending.